Have you been following the election campaign?
Of course. I'm with the CBC.
What has your role and responsibilities been?
We make sure the election is covered in a fair and balanced way.
How do you report on Harper?
We make sure we hold him and his candidates accountable. Voters have a right to know if they say or do anything controversial.
What about Justin Trudeau?
We make sure we give him enough airtime for voters to know he's a valid and credible alternative. And we post some pictures of him.
What about the economy? There has been a lot of talk about deficits.
Yes. Several of our stories have pointed out that Harper had 8 years of deficits, even though he said he was opposed to that. Important points there.
Actually, it's 6 years. 2008 to 2014.
Close enough.
And did you mention the $40 billion deficit started when the Libs and NDP demanded and forced $50 billion in stimulus spending during the minority government?
Minor details. As long as the voters are reminded of the deficits. That's all that matters.
Why wouldn't you tell the full and true story? Are you trying to push an agenda here?
Gosh. No. Of course not.
Has any media reported on the fact that the deficit is gone? And so far this year there is a $5 billion surplus?
I think a couple papers mentioned it on page 27, right underneath the toilet paper ad.
So in just 6 years, our deficit to surplus situation has improved by a staggering $45 billion. Don't you think that might be important to Canadians?
Well, we were going to mention it, but, we ran out of time. Hey.
What about the debates? Why didn't you carry them? CTV Global also refused to carry them. Why?
What was the point when Harper refused to take part? Was he afraid to face the people?
Duh. He took part in 5 debates. More than I've seen any other national leader ever do.
Well, we did give some coverage. We got a panel of our experts to talk about it after.
What about the debate on economy? Did you do anything special for that?
Yes, we did. We made a short video of Justin paddling down the river in a canoe. We decide what's news and what isn't.
Tell me how you select which photos to print. It has been noticed that all photos of Harper are taken from eye level, while he has a neutral or blank look on his face. But most pictures of Justin are taken from below, at an upward angle, and often with glowing lights right behind him like a halo. All media does it. Maclean's, CTV, Global.
It's important to portray him as larger than life. Because his message is hope.
Pass me a bucket so I can be sick. At least all of Canada knows what the inside of Justin's nostrils look like. Every day one of you posts another picture from that upward angle, displaying a perfect nostril shot of him.
Well.
And what about the man who got mad at some reporters and swore?
We made headline news out of that.
But he is a private citizen, not running for election in any way.
So? He was at a CPC event. So we were able to make a headline screaming, "Stephen Harper supporter hurls profanities."
What about the Liberal or NDP supporter who drove around in public with an obscene message on his car?
What did it say?
It was against Harper. It said F. Harper.
But he is a private citizen. Not running for election in any way. None of our business. Hey.
So if a person supports Harper, you can make headlines ridiculing them, but if they support Liberal you don't care?
You're learning.
Do you give candidates the same treatment? What about NDP? Finn Donnelly. He falsely claimed he personally handed file on Kurdi boy to immigration minister, and then claimed Canada refused to let him enter. A completely untrue story.
We're sure it was just a mistake. No need to make a big deal out of it.
What if a Conservative candidate made such a false accusation against Canada?
We would demand his resignation and an apology from the party leader. Hey.
Did report on how Canada has been bringing in refugees steadily for several years? Especially since the war in Syria started?
Once the NDP's false Kurdi story broke, all media reported several times a day for 2 weeks on how Harper is not doing enough.
Justin never said anything about it either, other than to offer warm clothes to wear while ISIS is attacking them. Despite all the government was doing, Justin said nothing in the months before the election and neither did media.
Well, Maybe he thought it wasn't important back then.
Well, I've got news for Justin, and for you. You do not suddenly discover compassion during an election campaign.
Oh. Guess you're right. Hey wait. That's Justin's line. You can't go using his lines. That's not fair. That's not right.
Even though he was a total hypocrite in saying it. By not caring or saying a word about it until the election was on? And did you know that the UN has been coordinating and approving which refugees come here?
What? That's terrible. Why is the UN doing it? Here is the headline. Stephen Harper cedes Canada's authority to the UN. Harper should step in immediately and make sure Canada's guidelines and security concerns are followed.
Actually, before the election, the government did step in and briefly pause the intake to make sure Canada's guidelines and security concerns were followed. Then the process resumed.
What? That's terrible. Why is Harper interfering with the UN job and process? Here is the headline. Stephen Harper overrides the UN and stops refugee process.
What bollocks? Make up your mind about what you want to see. So what about the first half of the campaign? Most media hardly reported on it. They just threw endless fits and forced stories about Duffy.
Duffy.
Many Canadians complained that the media seemed obsessed by it.
Duffy.
Are you feeling okay?
Duffy.
Snap out of it.
It's unfortunate it became such a distraction from the real issues.
You say it's a distraction, but the media wrote about it every chance they got.
Yes.
Did you write about the deficit improving $45 billion into a surplus?
No.
Did you write about the huge increase in health transfers to the provinces?
No.
Did you print another nostril shot of Justin and cry Duffy?
Yes. Wait. No. Duffy.
Why did you treat the Niqab story the same way?
Niqab.
Is that word like jelly beans to the media?
Well, Harper wants to ban Niqabs from Canada. Isn't that big news?
Nonsense. There are several places and situations where you are not allowed to have your face covered. All Harper did was add the citizenship ceremony to that list. Nothing else.
Yes. But from that we can write stories that he is telling Canadian women how to dress.
That claim is so totally untrue that it makes me want to throw up all over your shoes.
Well, he also said he will ban it for all civil servants.
More lies. That was suggested not by Harper, but on CBC by Rosie. All Harper said was Quebec is doing that, and he'd watch it closely and respond in a sensible manner.
Yes, that's correct.
Then what did you put on the news?
We said he actually plans to do it. Martin on CTV said he vowed to do it. Global said it was proposed legislation for him. Maclean's and several papers also got in on the act, accusing him of actually intending to do this.
Even though the video clearly shows he never said that at all, and it was Rosie who suggested it?
Yes. We decide what the news will be.
But did you report on one of the biggest political stories of the year? The TPP deal?
We reported it for one day, then went straight back to Niqabs.
But the TPP can have huge impact on Canadian trade and prices. Many are calling it a major achievement for Harper.
Niqab. Duffy.
Why push Niqabs so much? Is that more important than the TPP?
We don't understand why Harper is making the Niqabs such a big election issue.
He is not. After one or two comments, it's been media writing about it every single day. And after the TPP news broke, they increased it to several times a day.
We are just doing our job. We are only responding to Harper.
But he talks about the economy, the TPP, the crime rate, the tax levels. Then a report will ignore all that and just ask him a Niqab question.
Well, that's up to the reporter.
Most media are writing about it when Harper is not. Even the Calgary mayor jumped on the bandwagon. Meanwhile, Justin and Mulcair are just standing on the sidelines like little children egging you on by throwing in uniformed and divisive comments.
We will continue to push it, then blame Harper for pushing it, then columnists will write about it, then reporters will ask him about it again, then we make more headlines about it and accuse him of pushing it.
It's obvious that you are playing the politics of fear, trying to make the gullible scared of Harper by exploiting and creating divisions that were not here 6 weeks ago. I thought you said you were doing responsible and balanced coverage?
Listen very closely. Here is the situation. Whoever controls the media, controls the nation. Most media has a desire for Justin to win, so we will make the news to suit. If he gets the news reported or presented favorably to him, it may boost him tremendously. Most public don't follow the news in depth. They just see the headlines and maybe skim the first couple paragraphs, then move on. Basically, they are uninformed. We can use that to our advantage. By carefully wording the headlines, we can cause such people to instantly get a negative opinion of one person and a positive opinion of another, regardless of what the full story says. That's why we all select pics of Justin at an upward angle, surrounded by screaming groupies. It makes him subliminally look like a rock star. Then we post pics of Harper taken at precise moments to make him look baffled, angry, or even kicked in the guts. We will angrily deny it if questioned in public, but we simply do not like Harper and will do anything to help get him defeated. That will pave the way to have Justin placed at the head of the table, where he belongs.
Clearly, you suffer from what many call Harper derangement syndrome. You're driven by nothing more than a deep-seated hate, no matter how many divisions you create. It's easy to see why you people are referred to by some as a media party. I have never seen as many calls to stop funding or even disband the CBC as I've seen the last few months. Your bias is pathetic, and you're making a mockery of the billion tax dollars you get. This election is not about Duffy or Niqabs, and your refusal to cover it properly shows how little value you have to Canada. And no amount of Justin nostril shots can fix that. I stand for Canada.